welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of July. I know these are late, thank you for waiting for me, I do appreciate that. Using the Llewellyn Tarot for you today. Do I have anything to tell you? I do not. I have not kept up with the astrology really in any meaningful way, so let's get straight on with this. Could I have 3 cards for Virgo, please? There's the first one, positively twirled out. We have the Empress, which is Taurus energy in the major arcana. Can I have current energy, please, for Virgo? Thank you. We have the Queen of Wands. It's Aries, very strong. And what is coming towards Virgo, please, for July? Oh, thank you. We have the 4 of Swords. I think that might be a bit of a welcome break for you, actually. I've got the Wheel of Fortune at the bottom of the deck here, followed by Temperance and the Moon. There's a... It feels like there's quite a deep psychological shift going on with you here, but definitely tipping towards healing rather than, you know, losing yourself in some sort of dark night of the soul. The Wheel of Fortune is Sagittarius energy, as is Temperance. The Moon is Cancer. Now we are, just as I'm recording this, still in Cancer season. And the Moon is very much concerned with the things that riffle along underneath. I don't think that there's a sign that I've read for this month that hasn't had some sort of challenging of the narratives going on. I think that's probably the best way to put it. You know, there's a lot of stuff coming up that's coming up from deep down, as we see here with this Moon card. But this sort of double blessing of Sagittarius energy on here feels like has the potential to shift things for you quite strongly. This is a card of healing and balance and moderation, and the Wheel of Fortune is a card of things improving. More than that, though, it's, well, in addition to that, I guess perhaps the cause of that is the fact that this here is a teaching moment. When you see something that you did not see before, you get some sort of insight into, you know, what has made you be who you are, for good or for ill. And it presents you with the possibility of shifting that, because it's been brought into your consciousness, into a place where you can actually see it now. And once you can see it, then you can process it. But it seems to me like you've been busy, Virgo. Let's have a look and let's give this a proper shuffle, and then we'll pull some clarifiers and see where this is going. Because it looks like you're about to have a bit of a break, you know, a bit of a lie down. Certainly a bit of a recover, at least. Anyway, tell me about the Empress, please. Whoa, shit. That was... Oh. We have the Chariot, more Cancer energy there. And we have the Judgment card appearing in the reverse. That's quite interesting. And we have the Queen of Wands. We have the Strength card, Leo energy. We have the Queen of Swords. I did wonder if she was going to show up, because she's actually the next card underneath these 3 shadow cards that I saw there. Definitely a very useful energy for you if you are in the midst of processing some stuff, you know. We have 4 of Swords, thank you. We have the 5 of Swords in the reverse, very, very nice. One more for Virgo, please. And there it is. And the 4 of Cups in reverse as well. Yeah. Got the Sun at the bottom of the deck, Virgo. It's a very welcome sign. It's 9 of Cups is sitting behind it too. The Sun is the card of Leo there, and we are about to move into Leo season. And I wonder if, you know, this sensitivity to environment, which I feel is something that is very particular to Virgos, is reflected in the energies of Cancer season, and then further the energies of Leo season. Now for a lot of people, Leo's season is about doing a lot of things, but actually I think an evolved take on Leo, or rather a take on an evolved Leo, is the understanding that you can't fix everything for everyone all of the time. It's about replenishing your own fire first, you know, giving yourself a chance to have a break, kind of process everything before you come back out, right? I was kind of crossing over with Virgo a little bit there. Anyway, we have the Empress. Like I said, that's Taurus energy, and she is a card of abundance. She's particularly, associated with abundance, sometimes fertility and things like this. But she feels very foundational here for you, to me, at least. Anyway, you know, being a Taurus card, it's often associated with family and home and security and stability, but also a level of expansion that comes from that, right? So she's numbered 3. And sometimes it's about the expression of that, right? The physical manifestation of those things that you've been thinking about that you would like to bring in, the things that you perceive might actually expand your life in some way. You might have started spending more time outside. It might be just as simple as that, you know. Understanding that as an earth sign, and particularly as fixed earth, that there's a certain energetic replenishment that happens when you are out in nature or you are spending time around animals, you know. But it could be speaking to all of the other aspects of Taurian energy too. So it could be improved relations with, with your family. It could be spending more time with people who feel like family to you. Or you could be working on your home, you know. The important thing is that it feels to me very strongly like that. It's been like an assessment of what is important, you know, perhaps a slight restructuring of values and kind of starting from the ground and working up. Now, you know, Virgo is mutable earth, and in the, I don't know, I've got a kind of, the feeling is in the 3D. So like Taurus is here, it's grassroots, it's in touch with the earth. And then from there we have Capricorn, who is, you know, cardinal sign and is pointing the way. But Virgo is mutable and sits at the top. There's where the movement can happen, you know. There's the element of flexibility that is not present in the other sign. So given that we've got this Taurian energy sitting down here, it does seem like it's a bit of a kind of going back to basics. And it's like, well, if I want to be comfortable, if I want to feel secure, if I want to feel like I've got more energy, what are the positive steps that I have to take first in order to create that environment for me? The fact that the Chariot's coming out after is very interesting, because it does suggest a level of resolve and determination that you are applying to this that it feels a little new. I mean, perhaps the ideas that you're having are not new, but the implementation thereof are feeling to me like they're a little fresher than everything else. So, you know, it's that thing about taking your own advice, you know. It's almost like intellectually you've known what you needed to do, but for whatever reason, and I suspect that the moon and everything that the moon represents there has played a big part in it. You've not been able to start. You've not been able to find it within yourself to kind of get out there and do a thing. But now it's happening. It might just simply be the importance of understanding the importance of having something to work towards. I mean, you're not a shallow sign, Virgo. It's not meaning to cast aspersions over other signs doing that, but there's a depth of emotion that is associated with Virgo that is more readily accessible, I think. And when things are hard and you're not operating, you know, in your full energy, that can sometimes get redirected into overthinking and things like that. But it feels like you're done with struggling with something, and I'm kind of going back to this moon card, and I'm going back to the the Wheel of Fortune, which is numbered 10. And it's this Temperance card sitting in the middle. It's kind of like seeing the thing, working on healing it, understanding the lesson and improving your environment as a result. there was something I was going to say and I can't quite put my finger on it. It doesn't feel like it's been a matter of practicalities for you. It feels like subconsciously there's been something that has either been casting a bit of a veil over you, of illusion, or you can't do this because of X, Y, Z reasons, and you've not really tried poking those too much. It's just been like, oh, well, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, that's a thing, so I'll not do that. I'll think about it and I'll consider it, but I'm not going to do it. And it feels like you've seen it for what it is. And it might be procrastination, or it might be a little bit of fear. It could be anything. But I feel like you're kind of done with that now. For some of you, it might be, it might be hiding behind excuses as to why you're not doing X, Y, and Z. But whichever way it's coming out, the opportunity for growth is there in front of you. You have identified what has been holding you back, and now I'm going to start doing a little bit more practically to set the goals, to take me towards where I want to go. And this Judgment card in the reverse is quite an interesting one. I actually felt as it came down that was a really good place for it to be, and a really good position for it to be in. Got the Four of Cups and we've got the Tower. It feels like the realization that the feeling of no choice that you had, the feeling of no autonomy that you had, was a decision in and of itself, and that you've had the power in this situation all along and you didn't realize it. We've got the Four of Cups that's come out with the Tower here. Now the Tower is it's one of those scary cards. I actually love it. I think it's a brilliant card. It's often a sudden shocking energy that kind of shakes things up, and yeah, I mean there are 3D versions of it. They can be, losing your job or losing your home, or a relationship breakup, things like that. But I have to say that my most profound Tower moments was happened while I've just been washing up. Stood at the sink, and then all of a sudden, while my brain's drifting because I'm not having to concentrate on anything, just some little insight comes into my head, like connections that I didn't make before suddenly happen. I must like a right clip sometimes, honestly. I just stood there at the sink with my mouth open, staring blankly at the inside of my head, generally. Because this Four of Cups, it's a tricksy little energy, and it feels to me like what's in these cups is stuff that your subconscious has not wanted you to have a look at. It's been like, no, don't worry about this. And this is where maybe the excuses have come in, but certainly the willingness to not start something was coming in. Now with this Tower card being here, it feels like it's all fallen down. What's fallen down? It's the inability to make a decision about something. Like I said, it doesn't feel like it's been a practical consideration for you. You've had the ability to be able to do everything that you needed to do. It's just that something in your mind was saying, not now. I don't want to do it now. So it's not about now. And this Tower represents the epiphany, right? It shows you what you've been kind of, I wouldn't say you've been hiding from it exactly, because that gives it a very conscious aspect, and it's not. It's been a very subconscious thing. Your mind has been trying to protect you from whatever, because it's decided in its very limited wisdom that that's what's going to keep you safe. But in reality, you need access to these so that you can bring that Temperance card in, and you can heal them. And the lack of a decision, the lack of the ability to be able to make the decision that changes your life, is something that feels to me like it's just gone up in flames where you've realised that you do have autonomy and you do have the power to be able to change X, Y, and Z. And sometimes it can be so very fucking subtle, so subtle. And I think, we've talked about it before, you know, when you're doing any kind of self-work, right, those are those really obvious things that come up, like there was a bereavement, or I was abused, or I had all of these things, I had narcissistic parents, and it's like, oh, this is why I am like I am, this is why I'm carrying around all of this shit, and it's huge, you know. But the more that we sit with this kind of thing, the more that we're willing to sit with ourselves and do the work and process whatever it is that needs processing, we come to those smaller realizations. Now, they're no less life-changing. I really do want to make that understood. But they're smaller, they're more subtle, they're discreet, and they would, if you were not paying attention, kind of slide under the radar. And it feels like the subconscious things that have been sliding under the radar, but that have had the cumulative effect of stopping you from doing something that you wanted to do. Even if that something is literally just leaving the house. Yeah. Or spending time with people that are important to you. Or going and doing something that you know actually gives you peace. Feels like you've nailed what it is, and now you've understood what it is. Now you can nobble what it is and actually start doing, because that's where we are with the Queen of Wands. So it feels very, very strong doing energy. I mean, the Wand suit absolutely is that anyway, right? It's about lived experience, and I like to see this here for you because it means that you're not sat in your cave. It means that you have been actually kind of busy doing things which presumably are taking you towards this goal, as represented by the Chariot card. You know, what it is that you want to achieve, what represents abundance to you with the Empress card. And we have the Strength card, and we have the Queen of Swords underneath here. Now, this is fire. Both of these cards are fire, so it is experience. But this here is personal growth. These are the little changes that you are making to your environment that are having a very real and obvious effect straight away. Now, the brilliance of this isn't necessarily that things are getting better, although would hope that they are, and that is a good thing. It is more understanding the extent to which you have prevented yourself from doing these things in the past, right? It's that realization, that epiphany, now being held up to the light and seeing that it really doesn't have the kind of substance that initially we might have thought it did. You know? It's Aries energy right there. So it is initiatory, right? It is, I am going to go and do a thing. It is very determined. It is very confident. It feels very buoyed up here. And there's almost like a willingness to throw yourself directly into whatever it does. Now, this Queen of Swords is here. And I actually like the fact that she's here because she's the energy that's going to stop you from burning out. And I think that that's a consideration, because you've been operating on a level for a certain amount of time. When you knock it up, right, it's kind of unsustainable to hold it at that level the whole time. I think so, at least, anyway. But that's okay, because that's why we've got the cave, right? We can go back to that century and we can spend a little bit of time there, and we can consider and process and be very discerning about what it is that you put your energy into. It's not that you have to hit the world at 100 miles an hour in all directions, because, you know, not only is that unsustainable, but you'd literally only keep it up for like 5 minutes and then you'd be like, fuck this is too hard. What we're talking about is there's a very neat kind of process going on here, whereby you've had the epiphany, you've seen a few things, you've understood, or maybe it's come to you, you know, the ways in which you can kind of rectify this. You've had some good ideas about it, and then you have begun to put them into practice, and you are getting a return on that. It feels like there's almost an immediate return. So there's a phrase that I'm looking for that I'm finding it difficult to nail right now. yeah, it's causing like a feedback loop, actually, almost, of validation at every single step of the process, but taking it easy, you know, being careful with it. Sorry, Silas is flopping around in here. It's a bit hot today, and so he's hiding out in here with me, and it's a little bit cooler. Because the important part of this is the conscious aspect of it. Because you've been ruled by what's been going on subconsciously up until this point, it is very important that, you know, we take whatever it is that's been holding you back and go, right, I see how you're holding me back. There are options that now occur to me and ways that I can kind of break this a little bit, you know, smash the stone of this up and break it into more processable pieces. And so I will do this little thing here, and I will do this little thing here, and I will do this little thing here. I'm not getting an energy of you deciding that you're going to, you know, pack up your house and sell it and move state and go and, you know, live in a hippie commune or something like that. I'm not getting those kind of huge energies. They feel quite subtle but quite powerful at the same time. And there's this exercise of, well, I'm just going to test this out and see that if it works. And it feels to me like everything is just kind of working. It's validating what you experienced and what you felt, and the improvement that comes therefrom, rather. But it seems to me like, I don't know, I said that this was a little bit of a break, and I'm not sure that it is a break. It feels more like it's a pacing here, where you're pacing yourself, not trying to do too much at any given point, but being aware of the resources that you have at your disposal, whatever they are. But I suspect it's going to be time and motivation, general energy levels, right? Not trying to push through too hard. But the other meaning of this card, and one that I feel is more appropriate now we're looking at what's been going on for you, is, like I said at the beginning, is recovery. It is rest. Now, it may seem counterintuitive to have lots and lots of things going on, even if you are pacing yourself here, and to equate it with rest. But it feels like something within you is relaxing, Virgo, into this, rather than having to retreat. You know, I feel for Virgos a lot of time that retreating is a nervous response. They're like, fuck, this is hard, I'm going back over here until I've processed it out here. But you seem to be processing it out in the open, which is important. And rather than, I've got this bizarre shape that I'm being shown. I can't really describe it. It's kind of like metal tubular stuff. It can't be metal because of what I'm about to say here, right? And then lots of things that have been kind of stuck to it. And it's like, up until this point, what you've been doing is kind of picking little bits off, but it's not reduced the tension. It's not made things easier. What's happening now is that the whole kind of frame of whatever this is kind of relaxing and stretching out, and it just fits into the space a little better than it did before. Now, things that are stuck to it are kind of falling off where they need to. You know, they can't take the stretching that's going on here. You feel like you're breathing a little more easily, to me. There's a really tight feeling in my chest that kind of lifted as I started to see this kind of pulling out and relaxing into it, the whole thing kind of relaxing. And it's interesting that we've got these two cards here, and we've got the Five of Swords and we've got the Four of Cups, and both of them showing up in the reverse, which is wonderful because those are kind of tricky energies to navigate. They're very, very difficult, but it says to me that what's going on here is the navigation of these. But you're doing it carefully, you're doing it quietly, but you're doing it out in the open, and you're doing it in such a way that you're kind of relaxing into it. It does not feel stressful in the way that it did prior to the epiphany, such as it was, right? And it's interesting on this card here, I always miss it because there are other things in the card that kind of draw your eye. There's a tree woman here, and there are 4 swords that are veiled, and obviously we have the sleeping woman in the foreground. But it looks really obvious when you see it on the camera there. There's a big white sleeping dog down here. Like, the guard is dropped. It is not necessary. Now the swords are veiled because we don't fucking need the swords because we're resting. Thank you very much, right? It's not overthinking anything. It feels like it's feeling for you. And you know, we're going from an energy of Cancer season into the energy of Leo season. So we're going from feeling to doing without having to negotiate those swords there. And the same is true for this here. Because that 5 of Swords is a very, very icky energy. You know, sometimes it can be verbal conflicts that we have with other people, but the way that I tend to look at this card is cognitive loops, right? It's where your brain is telling you something is one way, and the reality of some of it is actually quite different. So what we do is we end up being in this kind of repetitive loops of thought where we think, well, we can't do anything, or we're trapped, or we're stuck, or, you know, we have no choice in any matter. There's nothing we can do. You know, it's almost a little fateful. You know, we kind of go, well, this is our lot now. Like, there's literally nothing I can do to change it. And then you realise that you can, and you realise that you could have changed it all along. And there's a great deal of empowerment that comes with that, like we see with the Strength card. But there's a lot of mental cycles that also get broken. Now this is a card of great instability here, and how, you know, how stable can your mind be if it's just looping on stuff? But it's shown up in the reverse here for you. So there are loops that are being broken. There are ways that you have thought about things that now no longer really apply. When you're seeing them by the cold hard light of day, when it's actually into your consciousness, you see that it doesn't really stand up to interrogation, right? It's not nearly as vigorous as you thought it was, and you know, it's time for it to go. It's interesting that we've got the 4 of Cups in the reverse too, given that we had it in the upright for you right at the beginning there. You know, the 4 the cards numbered 4 always have a foundational level energy about them. You know? So what we've got here is a change in the way that you are thinking about it, a recovery, a healing, almost, in the way that you are thinking about things, right? Getting out of those loops that you've been stuck in, but also getting away from this 4 of Cups energy where there's been an unwillingness to engage with the things that have held you back. Again, now seeing this, it could well be that this is the cognitive loop that is being broken here for you. It feels like your conscious mind is having a bit of a crack of the whip over your subconscious mind. And I feel like you're being validated. You know, there's confirmation coming in all of the little changes that you're making at this point. And you might be nervous about it. You might be a little bit like, don't quite know how this is going to go. But at the same time, there's kind of a push to do it anyway. And you do it anyway, and it doesn't feel quite as bad as you thought it was going to be. That there's a little validation, right? This is okay, I can do this, I've got this. And then you do the next little thing. You know, the cumulative effect of all of these little changes is going to build to, you know, it's going to add up to something really quite big. But it needs to be done in little sections for you. So if you've been worried that you haven't been achieving enough, you haven't been getting anything done, you know, all that sort of thing, I don't think that you should be concerned about it, because there, you know, there are many ways to skin a cat, as the old saying goes, and you're just doing it differently to all of the other signs this month, but you're doing it in a way that actually suits you better, Virgo, because you like to check the details on things. You know, you're very fastidious about these things, and at no greater point than when you're dealing with your own mind, your own emotions too, for sure. So I think this is actually really, really positive for you. I mean, how could we not? I mean, it seems to me like the goal that you might well be setting yourself is to be consciously happy. Like, that's not a state that just falls over on people. You know, you just wake up one day and you're just brilliantly happy for the rest of your life. You know, there's an element of needing to train yourself into being able to see all of the good things, all of the things that would qualify as sun card kind of levels of gratitude. You know, and that's another thing that this card talks about, is gratitude. You know, those things for which we are actually grateful. A bit like, use this example the other day for another sign as well. You know, when you find out you're pregnant, you're literally like 6 or 7 weeks gone, something like that, right? And then you walk around and suddenly every other person seems to be like they're a heavily pregnant woman, and you're like, whoa, where have all of these pregnant people come from? Well, they haven't really increased. It's just that you're zoning into it, you're seeing it now. And it's the similar sort of thing. If things have been very hard for you, and Virgo, we know that they have, then there likely has been a hypervigilance that has been, I was going to say developed, but it hasn't been developed over the last couple of years. It's just been heightened from a state that already existed for the last couple of years. And it makes it very difficult to do anything other than be on guard for, where you're about to be ambushed. On the other hand, if you're starting to find these small, things that you can express gratitude for, these little acts that you do, perhaps that you allow other people to do for you, those little ways in which you can make yourself feel more grounded and more empowered, then you aren't necessarily going to be taking your attention and sending your energy that way. Now, whether that creates the good things or whether it just helps you notice them, I don't know. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I like this for you, Virgo. Always understated. Always understated. I like that. Right, I'm going to go over to Vimeo and we're going to have a look at this triumvirate of cards here, but I'm going to pull more because I'm nosy. And that's what we do here on this channel, right? So if you would like to join me over there, the link is in the description box for Vimeo. The link is also in the description box for Patreon. And if you join that, then you get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost. So you can watch your moon and your ascendant and your Venus and your Mars if you like, or you can cross-watch for other people if that's your bag. But if not, don't worry. Like, be kind to yourself above everything, Virgo. And the second that you start to feel like you're being judgmental about yourself, then that's when you need to go and have a cup of tea and a breather and remind yourself what it is that you're doing here. Right? Keep everything conscious. Right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.